All right, I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown with Lindsay Thomas and Mark Olis on how to better your herd health and find more bucks this season.
I'm KJ. You found the right place. We go all over this little blue orb, sharing stories and tactics about chasing wild game. Now, let's get on the hunt.
Welcome in, all you gun talk hunters. I am your host, KJ, and man, it's going to be a great episode today because I am back. I can officially announce that I am back in the trail cam business. And what does that mean? What does that look like? We're going to cover it today. This episode is brought to you by Remington Ammo, Ruger, Hodgdon Powders, and Range Ready Studios. So for this episode, we've got Lindsay Thomas of the National Deer Association and Mark Olis from Moultrie Cameras, Moultrie Mobile, that kind of thing. But let's jump in. Let's talk about deer herd and health and how to utilize your cameras to better your herd health with Lindsay Thomas of the National Deer Association. Lindsay, how you doing, man?
I'm great, KJ. How are you?
I'm doing good. So just a little brief background for you and Mark. I have not run trail cameras in, I would say, a solid 12 years. I picked up my first Moultrie camera. It's an Edge 3. It's a remote, one of the cellular cameras, and I'm running it this year. And boy, have I missed a lot in the last 10 years because these things are absolutely incredible. And I want to know, Lindsay, how do you utilize like your trail cam network to manage your deer herd?
You know, it's almost let's list the ways I don't use it because that's easier. I mean, I use them all year long. I'm running edges as well, have been for a while on the Moultrie Mobile wireless network. I run them most of the year, if not all year long. I'm looking at everything from fawn recruitment in spring to buck age structure in fall to how they're using various areas of the habitat, how they're responding to habitat improvements. You know, this last year I started moving some cameras into some burn units I had just burned with some growing season fire to see how deer responded to the recovering forage and cover after a growing season burn. So it's a little bit of everything, KJ, that you can do from herd to habitat management. And that's, of course, not to mention hunting strategy.
Yeah. So, wow. We're within the hunting season right now, and guys are running these cameras. Like, let's look at the off season and where you're kind of doing your monitoring. Where are you setting those up? Is it all travel corridors from like a bed to feed type of situation? Where are you starting to look at placing those when you talk about your particular property?
So in the off season, I'm generally most of the year I'm looking for unbiased camera locations. And what I mean by that is a site that is not going to be biased in how it looks at the deer population or areas that deer are using. In other words, I want to get a good unbiased look at the entire deer population and how they're using the whole property. So usually in the off season, I'm looking for just good, heavily traveled trails. And that can be anywhere from between bedding and feeding or general movement patterns or whatever. So I'm trying to put cameras in different areas on trails to capture deer movement and therefore capture pretty much the whole deer population in unbiased look. Does, fawns, bucks, using different areas. You know, what I don't want is a site that is biased in either time of day the deer are using it or the sex of deer that are using it. I want to capture a little bit of everything, and that way I can kind of get a good sense of things like doe to buck ratio, fawn recruitment, age structure of bucks, you know, a good look at the entire population and how they're using the property that I'm hunting.
Right. Yeah. I mean, will their movement and the stuff that you're picking up on camera dictate a lot of the times how you improve your property? Do you notice that at all?
Yes, it does. One of the things that we've noticed with using prescribed fire is we try to have prescribed fire on a rotation of every 2 to 3 years in our burn units, but we're going for a patchwork of different habitat across those burn units. In other words, we're not burning everything in the same year. You're burning a little bit each year, every year. And that way you've got burn units that have got every level of forage and cover recovery, from brand new fresh forage to 2 to 3 year old cover. And what we found is deer respond to those in different ways. That 2 to 3 year old cover for a deer is visibly blocking, so they feel safe in that. It's not like a food plot. It's not wide open. And so how deer use those burn units in any given year translates into what we're doing during deer season, because not only is there forage there, but deer will now use some of those burn units during daylight hours more than they will others because of that security sense. And so then of course, our fire breaks a lot of times are shooting lanes. So our hunting strategy infiltrates the burn units. And so the cameras tell us and verify for us that deer are responding in these ways, and which units they're using more, which units they're coming out into in daylight hours. So therefore we can hunt those effectively.
And this is the time of year, and since we're in like the hunting season, like everybody's sending me trail cam photos. And it's funny because like most all trail cam photos that I get are all in, like, they're dark. They're dark. So the deer are somewhere else. You got to have them in the light. Like that's when you start like knowing, okay, now I can start to like kill this buck. But when you're looking at, oh my gosh, because I'm thinking about these fire breaks. Now you have me on a whole different like level of like, well, should I start implementing that and letting the deer dictate what I do to my property? I guess like it's one of those things, like how trusting, like what type of information do you have to intake to dictate that you are going to make a change to that property?
You mean in terms of the habitat?
Yeah, in terms of the habitat, because what I would be worried about is I'd make a wrong move on my property, and I'm like there are 4 or 5 deer, out there milling around, and then I'm like, well, if I change this, and then it ends up being wrong, like how do you go about like deciding what to do? Like, because you talk about a burn, and I'm like, well, I've got areas that I could burn off. Now, the worry I have in Oklahoma is that I'd start the burn, and then it'd take off and light the whole place on fire. That's what I have to worry about.
Hey, we need to do another episode about prescribed fire. We'll be having Monica and I both will come back and talk about that, because we both burn, and the effectiveness of that, the usefulness of it, and how you do it. It's not that difficult, and it's certainly, when you do it right and you're burning into the wind, it's safe, and it's actually kind of boring to stand there and watch. That's how you want it.
Just watch it.
But we do that because it improves forage and cover. When you burn, you are rewinding the clock on that cover back to a stage that produces high quality broadleaf forbs that deer eat and that produce the highest protein and nutrients for deer. That's the point that you're doing it. Whether you need to or not comes back to where are you on your property in terms of numbers of deer and the amount of food for them. How's your deer health? Are you seeing a lot of fat on them in the fall? Do you see a browse line in the woods? Are you seeing effects that show you have more deer than you have deer food? And that's when you want to do some practices like fire and food plots and et cetera to increase the amount of deer food. And of course, on the other side of the balance scales is doe harvest to reduce deer density as needed till you get food and deer numbers aligned.
Good gosh.
So
now, I'm thinking of all the things that I'm doing wrong on my property right now that I'm like I'll harvest a couple of does, but like I feel like a trail cam, just 3 or 4 trail cameras would make an entire difference, because then I don't have to go out at night and do number count or anything like that. And it's like you're limiting your footprint on how many times you have to go in and do surveys or anything like that.
Yeah. And, this is one of the things about when you talked about seeing photos and they're all in the dark. Yeah. This is something hunters have to think about in how you use your cameras across the year. Going back to what I said about a biased location, and there are lots of biases. If, for example, I love to run cameras on scrapes, that's a great way to get an inventory in the fall of the bucks that are using the property when you can hunt it. But research shows us about 85% of scrape activity occurs at night. And so if you put your cameras on scrapes and then say, well, they're all nocturnal, no, that's because they're only using those scrapes at night mostly. And the same is true with a hunted bait site. We know this from good science. If you've got a bait site and that is being hunted or pressured, the chances are most activity around that bait site is going to be at night, especially by mature bucks. If you put a camera on any hunted site that is hunted heavily, again, pressure is biasing what you're seeing on that camera. Same thing with if your property you hunt has a lot of cover in one area, but your camera is 300, 400 yards from the nearest quality cover, and you say, well, they're all nocturnal. No, it's because of the location of the camera. They're not getting out to that location until dark because it's so far from good security cover that they're using during daytime. Right. So those types of sites give you a biased look at deer activity. And I hear people say, oh, the bucks have gone nocturnal. Well, wait a minute, where are your cameras? And that is why, using trails, using good cover, using passageways and burn, fire breaks that go through good cover, instead of sites that might have a bias in how the deer activity uses those, will give you a better look not only at the entire deer population, but at, activity levels, and enable you to see that deer aren't just moving at night. It might just be your cameras that are where you are putting them that's telling you that.
That's, man, like I've got to go and redo all my strategy, especially now. Lindsay, thanks, and hang on because we're going to get to the end and we're going to bring you back in. But right now, let's hear from our sponsor. Looking for a rifle that's short, sharp, and way more precise than you on your best day? Meet the Ruger American Gen 2 Scout, the Gun Talk Edition. This thing's compact powerhouse, dressed in Cryptek Obscura Nox camo with a smoked bronze Cerakote finish like Tactical Fashion Week, but with more recoil. Chambered in 5.56 NATO or 308, it's got a threaded barrel, installed high comb, and the kind of accuracy that forgives your bad decisions. At least the ballistic ones. You can find it at guntalkscout.com. You want speed, stability, and temp-taming performance? Meet Winchester Stayball 6.5, the world's first temperature-insensitive ball powder from Hodgdon. Great for 6.5 Creedmoor, 270 Winchester, and even your trusty old 30-06. Hey, here is a tip for you. This powder flows really smoothly. You'll get ultra-consistent charges through your thrower, perfect for high-volume reloaders chasing that precision. It's Stayball 6.5, smooth, stable, and smoking fast. Hey, get your heads up, right up here. Tactical treasure hunters, beware. Optics Planet just became your new favorite adult toy store for gear. Let's get that out of the way. Want scopes, red dots, night vision, and stuff totally you probably don't need but will absolutely buy anyway? Yeah, I thought so. Use promo code GUNTALK at checkout and get 5% off your order. That's right, 5%. Not 2, not 3, 5. Like the fingers you'll use to type that code in while pretending this wasn't my idea. So go to Optics Planet, check it out, enter code GUNTALK, and get your 5% off. Looking to level up your hunt and tighten up those groups? Well, look no further than Remington Ammo. Yeah, the stuff in the green box is super accurate, and they've got everything from hunting ammo all the way to NRL, like match ammo. So check those out. Remington Premier, from Premier Tip AccuTip to match grade ammunition, all in that green box you love, you trust, and you adore. Find it all at remington.com. Woo! When the shot matters most, clarity counts. The Zeiss Conquest 4 delivers unmatched precision, crystal clear glass, and rugged dependability. Built for hunters who chase perfection from the first light to the last. From whitetails to western ranges, trust your hunt to Zeiss. The Conquest V4, confidence through clarity. See your hunt differently at Zeiss.com/hunting and find all those woo moments. Tired of your range time being just mag dumps and Instagram flexing? Enter Range Ready Training, where Director of Awesomeness and everything else, Chris Serino, turns keyboard warriors into actual warriors. Or something like that. Pretty dang close, I would say. Yeah, the guy's been there, done that. Pistol, check. Rifle, check. Yeah,
We got it all. Force on force. We do that every now and then too. Bring your bruises, instructor development. Welcome to the Thunderdome of learning. It's more than training, it's range ready because real life doesn't come with a respawn button.
All right, let's head up to Alabama now. And Mark Olis of Moultrie. Mark, welcome in, man.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so we talked to Lindsay about like deer herd health, property management, utilizing the trail cam. We're in season now. What are you doing with your trail cameras leading up to harvest that big buck? How are you focusing in and dialing in your trail camera strategy to help you?
Yeah, so one of the big things, so to Lindsay's point, like on our place, early season, we're monitoring food, things like that. But here we are November, so it's the rut, right? So now I'm not abandoning those food cameras, but I'm actually placing other cameras. So those can be a number of places. So, if you look at a holistic, look at your property and you've hunted it, you've got cameras, areas that tend to hold does and things like that. Those are great areas to set up cameras looking for those bucks, because once those bucks really start seeking, they're taking the shortest path, or they're hitting as many of those places as they can to scent check for does and estrus, things like that. So that's where the travel corridors can come in. And the more you hunt a place and you're on it, you kind of know where those are. To Lindsay's point, maybe you have some scrapes or rub lines that are active. You're kind of checking those. And then, also those, like I said, I don't abandon those food source cameras because those does are still coming there. Yeah. And you'll start to see daylight activity from bucks and things like that. So I really, and then other places, I also hunt some public land here locally, where you can't manipulate the land, you can't plant food plots, things like that. So I'll wait and go into those areas closer to the rut, and I'll look for drainages and terrain features that are going to really funnel activity. And I'll just put cameras in those locations so I can see what's coming through, our bucks cruising, things like that. It's a much different mentality than a month ago where we're just looking at food cover.
Yeah. What is, I guess, switching to because I didn't ask Lindsay this, and I bet he has some advice on this too. Because you're like, okay, I'm going to get a trail camera. I'm going to put it out. I've got a spot for it. But is there an ideal number of trail cameras you should be running per acreage? Like if I've got 10 acres, I should probably be running 4 cameras or whatever it might be. Is there an ideal number that you kind of look at?
It's so site specific. If you're on if say Oklahoma, for example, and you're on 10 acres with a river bottom, those deer are going to move in that river bottom. So you might get away with a couple cameras. If that property is divided into ridge lines and bottoms and broken up more, maybe there's big ag involved and the habitat is really broken. That's really going to dictate, because how are the deer moving through the landscape? So it's hard to say there's a number. Yeah. It's also, with cell cams, you're paying for a monthly subscription or maybe an annual. So, it also becomes a budgetary concern. How much am I willing to spend? Because if you're like, hey, I can afford to run 5 cameras, well, then, put those cameras to use and always, right. I always like to have cameras, where I can, if I find something, I'm like, man, I'd really like to see what the deer are doing here. Those learning techniques, kind of like what Lindsay was talking about before, he runs cameras year round because he wants to learn. He wants to find out how the deer are moving. I'm always moving and positioning cameras, especially on that public land. I'll put cameras up with the intent to maybe only leave it there 2 to 3 weeks just to get an idea. Are the deer accessing? Are they coming through here? So it's also, a way to eliminate areas. You're not just
Yeah.
finding the areas to hunt, but if you can eliminate an area, that's as beneficial as finding an area.
Yeah. It's interesting you're using the term eliminating places because I've through observation I've been able to eliminate, but man, how much easier would it be to have something scouting in for me 24/7? I don't have to access because and Mark and Lindsay, you both know this, is that how it used to be was you had, SD cards and you have to go out and you have to pull that card and then you sit there and you scroll and you scroll and you scroll and you find, now you're having to find patterns. Now with the cellular technology that we've been blessed with is you don't have to go out in the field, because that's why I stopped running trail cameras, is because I felt myself always going back, like every weekend. Oh, here I go. I'm going to go check the cameras. And then when I hunt, which I only had the weekend to hunt, there'd be no deer there because I've accessed that stuff so much. They're like, oh, he's coming to check again. We're going to stay out of that area, And so the technology that we've got nowadays really allows you to like monitor everything on your property 24/7. Mark, do you notice the same thing? Because I mean, when I stopped running cameras, I was like, I'm done with them for good. And now with the Edge 3 that you guys have at Moultrie, like it has changed my outlook on how I view the optimization of trail cams.
Yeah. So, and that's the big thing and I think that's kind of the first thing that guys realize once they start running a cellular camera. It's like, man, I'm getting the intel and I'm not stepping foot in the woods. That's like the first benefit everyone realizes. And then it just builds from there. And at Moultrie, that's what we look at. We've got a lot of hunters in the building. We listen to our customers. What do you want out of this system? And then that's where we build it into the app side. So, with the Moultrie app, the whole goal is you've got one app that you can do all your hunt planning from. So you've got your cameras. They're bringing in that intel, at the very basic level, what deer, what time, that kind of stuff. And then that's why we build in a full mapping feature, because now you can see your cameras pinned across the landscape. You can even click on those cameras to see what kind of activity has been coming through. So now you can start to pattern bucks, pattern movement, things like that. And, Lindsay was talking about getting those, doe to buck ratios, fawn recruitment. We've even built in a deer survey feature into the Moultrie system. So now you can run that and Moultrie does the math for you. Now you still have to place cameras appropriately and things like that. But that's about what we're here to do, is how can this be more beneficial, more useful to a hunter? And that's where we pour all of our time and resources, not only into that camera and the hardware, but when you put that camera on a tree, your full interaction is through that app. And so that's where a lot of the efforts go into, is how can we help you? So we've got the full weather forecasting built in, the ideal winds for your tree stand. So you can pull that app up, quick glance. Okay, I know what stands I can hunt today or maybe down the road. And we've got the deer prediction model built in there. So you can look at a forecast of, hey, when is movement going to be good? And that data is coming from actual trail cam input. So yeah, it's really cool once you dive in. And season's the fun time. You get to use all the fun tools during season.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, don't get discouraged because Mark just like laid down a gauntlet of, oh, it can do this, it can do this, it can do this. It's not hard. Like,
No.
I had that camera up and running within like 10 minutes. It was good to go. I had everything set. And then, like he said, once you dive into that app, it's very self-explanatory. So I'm going to tell you right now, if I can do it, you sure as heck can do it. Like, don't worry about it. The only thing, and we're about to close out with Mark and bring them both back in. The only thing I want to do is, how in the heck do you keep cattle from from getting curious about your camera? Do you have any tips or tricks that I can use? Because cow number 89, cow
Right.
number 4, and cow number 8 are on my hit list right now.
Hey, cows love a camera, especially if it's staked in the middle of nowhere, man. They're
Yeah.
going to rub it. They're going to lick it. Elk are really bad on cameras too.
What is it with these cervids? Come on.
Oh man, they love it. You're gonna. The only way to do it is to have it, some kind of enclosure around it to make sure. But yeah, we don't have a cure for the cattle yet.
I'm telling you, if you come up with that, they're like, everybody will buy one, whatever it is. Is it a spray? Because I mean, they just immediately, like, I put the camera out, and within a day and a half, and I'd already driven back to Louisiana, a day and a half, the camera's leaned down and it's looking at a tree. And so all I had for like a week and a half was pictures of a tree limb. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, let's jump in. Let's bring Lindsay back in. Let's have Mark back in. Let's start with Lindsay. Lindsay, any final shots? Anything that was said that caught your ear, or anything that's going on with the National Deer Association?
Yeah, one thought I had about something that Mark said at the National Deer Association. One of the methods we teach people is how to do a formal trail camera survey. And there's a whole method for that. We've even written a book on it to help people do that. But the Moultrie app, now does the deer survey that Mark mentioned, that basically, the technology today is making it so easy for hunters to be able to get this kind of information, like doe bug ratios, fawn recruitment, buck age structure, and et cetera, at the touch of a button in the app. And you don't have to do the hard work anymore of the survey. So, and you mentioned going back to the days of pulling cards, I'm going to make myself look like a dinosaur here. And let me tell you about 1 hour photo and rolls of 36 exposure film.
Oh my God.
If you really want to go back to the old days. No, it's the modern technology today is just incredible, and it's addictive. 365 days a year, I'm looking at my app, looking to see what's on camera.
I had to hide my app because I was on it so much. Like, I was like, oh, because you can create folders, and you can, there's so much you can do with it, that I had to hide it within like my apps to, like, so I wasn't on it all the time. Like, oh, what are the deer doing today? And but that's a good thing, because I don't have to go there and I don't have to see it. Like, I don't have to be there in the woods to gain the intel that, I mean, the only way you used to be able to get there is just be in the woods. And I'm not saying, oh, don't go out in the woods. Like, but I can do my scouting from afar. But so, Lindsay, the National Deer Association, what's new with the NDA?
It's a busy time of year for us right now, KJ. All kinds of things going on. We got our Field to Fork program running hot. That is our adult hunter recruitment program, where we pair up adults who want to learn to acquire their own venison with mentors. And we've got hunts going on multiple states all over the country. Education is a big mission for us as a nonprofit, and answering questions about deer, everything from habitat management to herd management to when is the rut going to be, so it's a busy time of year. And our public lands initiative is rolling right now too, which is an effort working with the U.S. Forest Service and the Fish and Wildlife Service to help them get the habitat management done they've been wanting to do on public lands. Yeah. We've got a lot of great public lands, and we talk about, well, we need more. But the truth is, we also need to improve the habitat on the public lands that we've got, that we already own. These lands could be producing more opportunity and game if the habitat was managed better. So that's why our public lands initiative is going. So yeah, it's a busy time of year at the National Deer Association for sure.
What, man, I want you to drop some knowledge here. What is the rut going to happen early this year? Because I've already heard guys in Oklahoma, oh man, it's on. And I'm like, settle down, guys. Like, I don't think it's quite there yet.
The answer is it's going to happen at the same time in any given location that it always has happened. It varies across the map, where Mark is in Alabama is going to be later than November. Where I am in coastal Georgia, it was earlier. It was late October. But, most of the country is somewhere in November. But wherever you are, it's going to be consistent year to year. And that's because the timing is all based around putting a fawn on the ground 200 days later when the forage and cover is optimal for that fawn. That date changes by location. And so a doe needs to come into estrus at the same time in any location every year. The moon's not going to change that. The weather is not going to change that. Not even hunting pressure is going to change that. So traditionally, when you have seen the peak of activity where you hunt, it's going to be around that same time every year. This is why we tell people, hey, if it's the day of the year or the week of the year for you, then it normally happens, but it's warm and hot, go anyway. That's not going to suppress rut activity. The does are still going to come into estrus. Bucks are still going to be chasing them. Get in the woods if you can go.
See? Man, I tell everybody all the time, like, no, it's always around the same time frame. And you just explained it. Thank you for dropping all that knowledge. That's perfect. That's way more than I was guessing you'd say, which I'm happy you did. Mark, any final shots?
Well, I just wanted to say, like, we worked really close with the National Deer Association when we were developing the deer survey tool. So we were working with Kip Adams and the team there. So we're, the NDA is just great partners with Moultrie. And so we lean on those guys. They're a huge resource. And, one thing I was going to say, I mean, I love the organization personally. And Lindsay, I don't know if you've heard, but myself and a few other guys here in the Central Alabama just started a Central Alabama chapter. So we're like in the infancy of we've had like 2 meetings. We're kicking that off. So a lot of fun stuff going around. So I definitely, encourage folks to go check out the NDA. They do a lot of awesome work. And, from the management side, I love it. I eat that stuff up. But no, from Moultrie, Moultrie.com, we've got everything. There's a lot to talk about. We could do a whole podcast on the app and things like that. But, go check it out. And I would say anyone that's maybe you haven't run a cell cam, maybe you're looking to try one or get a few more. Later this month, when those Black Friday deals get going, we're going to have some major deals on the camera. So, maybe pinch those pennies right now because there's going to be some really good sales on those cameras here just in a couple weeks.
Well, I love it. And I appreciate you guys for coming on. I'm going to give my final shots. I was out of the trail camera game for a long time. And it took a buddy of mine saying, dude, just try it, please, to get me back into this game. And this is going to change the way I hunt because I live, 1,000 miles away from my hunting property. And the only way I can get out there is to pack up my truck, drive 11 and a half hours to get to the property. I don't have to do that as much anymore because I've got the intel at my fingertips and it will help my overall deer herd health. Because now I can know what's going on. And that'll help dictate what I do to the property down the line. And organizations like the National Deer Association and companies like Moultrie are the only way that happens. So I appreciate these guys for coming on. And I'm telling you what, you need to get a trail camera today, put it on your property. You will not be sorry you missed it. Anyway, that's it for me, guys. You know the drill. Keep those muzzles pointed in a safe direction and always be on the hunt.